Predictions of property doom. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because we have another article from the news, or news.com.au this time, about bleak predictions of property house prices crashing, this time 18%. Now, this is just another bank making the same prediction as all of the other banks. And, well, the last prediction we looked at was ANZ. It predicted it'll shoot up and then it'll drop down. But you need to look at how far back in time we're going. We're not going, worst case, 2018, 2020? I remember the time when housing was affordable back then. No, it wasn't. It was not affordable back then. So even if it comes off this top here, and housing goes down, there are going to be some people, their LVRs may not be as healthy anymore, particularly those who bought at the peak. But do you think they're going to be forced to sell? You think you'll see a flood of properties on the market? I don't think so. The last increase in the big surge in, bank force sales, not even distressed sales, shall we say, is 0.5% of the turnover in a month. So it's still not even that high, guys. So let's have a look at this. We need to keep this in mind, because I suspect more and more these are done for political purposes, or unintentionally political. This will incentivize, this fear coming from these articles that we constantly see, will incentivize our politicians to continue to intervene and manipulate the market. I think that's the one takeaway we can take from all of this. So one of the country's biggest banks has issued a grim warning to property owners, with 3 cities set to suffer the most. Bum, bum, bum. Oh no, you're going to lose some of that insane property growth that you've received. Property prices in Australia's 2 largest cities are expected to plunge by an eye-watering 18% by the end of next year. A Westpac economist has forecast that Sydney and Melbourne will soon suffer the massive decrease, with property values in the New South Wales capital predicted to fall 10% this year and 8% by 2023. Don't worry, I'm sure when Albo gets back from his concert and Skull and Beers, he'll just, find a way to solve the problem. Maybe increase the shared equity, or maybe get 400,000 people coming to the country every year. The report also found Melbourne was the inverse of that, expected to drop 8% this year and 10% next year. Hobart property owners are also slated to miss out, as dwellings in the Tasmanian capital are tipped to tank 14% in the next 18 months. I mean, here's the thing. If you've struggled and fought to get into a house and you lose value in it, are you going to care? If you're an investor, what are you going to do? Are you going to start selling your property? The thing is, if people are pushed to, if they get a quiet tap on the shoulder from the bank, we need you to sell, you need to reduce your debt with the bank, that's, something to keep an eye on. In all, the author of Westpac's August House Pulse report, or Housing Pulse report, senior economist Matthew Hassan, warned the situation looked bleak. The housing downturn that began at the start of the year has accelerated and broadened over the last 3 months, he said. Nationally, property prices are still expected to fall 16% over the next 18 months. According to the report, corrections are well advanced and firmly entrenched in New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, with those states set to record the biggest falls. Queensland and the ACT have mostly been spared. However, their prices are just starting to dip. Meanwhile, West Australia and South Australia are bucking the trend by still growing marginally. Mr. Hassan blamed the sudden downturn on the Reserve Bank of Australia's decision to hike interest rates, which had been raised every month since May, saying that it had weakened sentiment when it came to buying properties. Housing turnover is down 18% since the start of the year. Prices across the 5 major capital cities is down 2.7% over the 3 months to July, and well on track for a 1.5% decline for the current months. Some property sales, about 20%, are making less than 5% profit. Just over half of this is this risk group in Sydney and Melbourne. So what if they're making less than 5% profit? You won't be making any profit if your growth is that low, considering all the costs involved in selling houses. Mate, do you think this will, even if we just move sideways for a few years, do you think this will affect the addiction we have to housing here in Australia? Is it even possible? I think it's too much of a cultural thing. Do you think it'll end all the property bros? So, and we can see here's the Consumer Housing Sentiment Index and the turnover. Here's Sydney dwelling prices going down. Victorian, yep. Yeah. There's been a rapid reversal in fortune in New South Wales, according to the report, with housing turnover down 30% since January, while Sydney dwelling prices are already down over 7%. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the areas in New South Wales that saw the biggest gains last year during a time that saw national house prices increase by 25% are now due for a correction. So we went up 25%, and over 2 years we're going to go down 18%, so we're still going to be up. So it's still going to be crap for people who are waiting for a big correction. Now here's the question. Should you wait and try and time the market for housing if it's your family home? Is it worth the risk? Timing the market's bloody hard. So sub-regionally, prices are reversing more quickly in the eastern suburbs, northern beaches and North Sydney, which outperformed during the boom, but holding up better in the outer western suburbs, which lagged on the upturn, the report said. Regional slowdowns have been more abrupt for Illawarra and Byron Bay. Victoria isn't faring much better, with turnover down by a third since the start of last year, although the research did point out it had a high starting point, with turnover hit a 14-year high in 2021. Melbourne dwelling prices are about 4.5% off their peak already and are tracking lower at 1 to 1.5% a month. Melbourne's northeast and inner south were named and shamed as two areas leading declines. According to forecasts, Hobart's property market isn't safe either, slated to drop 6% for the remainder of this year, followed by 8% decline next year. It was slightly better for Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide, which will continue to grow into 2022. Although dwellings in those three cities will drop in value next year, it will only be in the single digits. Yes, but, I mean, let's look at something in context, guys. Let's have a look at, well, this is SQM, national asking prices. We'll refresh this page. Okay, there you go. So they're talking about corrections in this. Look how they've gone up. Nationally, look how property has gone up so much, the average. Okay, so what are we at? Let's say for all of them, what, 800 grand? You take off 10%, that's 80 grand. You take off 20% of that, that's 160,000. So what are you looking at, 640? So you're going back to 2021. So 20% correction off the prices we have now is just going back to 2021 levels for all houses. Is that big a deal? You tell me. If you're waiting on the sidelines now, since 2020, 2019, are you going to be happy with that type of correction? I don't know if you are. And is it worth waiting? Is it worth waiting, trying to time the market? That's the real consideration we need to have from all of this. Last week, ANZ released a similarly sobering outlook on the state of the Australian property. Like Westpac, the bank warned that most significant price falls will be seen in our two biggest cities, Sydney and Melbourne, but the report noted the trend will not occur or would occur nationally, including in regional areas and across all capital cities next year. Driving the grim trend was a steep increase in mortgage rates between May and earlier this year, coupled with reducing borrowing capacity, with city capital prices tipped to drop by 18% before climbing by 5% in late 2024. So, well, let's have a talk about this guy. Now, here's the thing with all this property. We've been discussing it on the channel for some time now, for a couple of years, particularly looking at the media reporting and all the predictions they're making. Remember the hoo-ha about the RBA's negative 40% predictions and the impact of that on the market? And now I'm seeing other articles all appear about people in mortgage stress and people usually have... Ones that seem to be popular now are people that have bought a house, it's half finished, and they're stuck renting and paying off a half-finished house because the builder's gone under. Now that mess exists because the government overheated the market. The RBA, talking about a 40% correction, was their worst-case modelling to look at the impact of that on the banks and the economy here in Australia. But the media ran with it. I picked it up too, because who wouldn't want to see that, that article? Now, what's more likely? that the government at a state and federal level, regardless of party, would allow the market to correct, or that they would intervene to mitigate any significant adjustments. Let me know what you reckon. What do you think is more likely, honestly? And with that in mind, if government intervention is more likely, do you think we'll actually see significant corrections? I make the joke about Mortgage Keeper. Shit, it may not be a joke. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this one, guys, because, I mean, this is just rehashed of what ANZ has said, hasn't it? There's no difference. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Check out HeiseBim and HeiseSays International for other content I discuss and videos I make, if you haven't already. And if you want to support us, there are a few ways you can. Financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, buying our merch, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. I mean, are people going to try the market for next year when it's the lowest? It's going to be tough. It is. It's going to be luck.